Carter. What did you like about him before you guys signed him, and kind of what has he added to not just special teams, obviously, but also offense?
Well, one of the big things, we were looking for a dual returner. And when we got a chance to look at some of the tape he did have and look at his stats, the guy's a pretty dynamic guy. We knew he was a slot receiver, and we were looking for slots. And when he started practicing, you start seeing this quickness, this explosiveness once he gets the ball in his hands. And that really, truly intrigued us. And he had a very good camp, which led to him obviously making the team. And quite honestly, seeing what he's given us as a wide receiver, we think is a pretty good bonus. But the truth of the matter is, we saw that during camp, and we should have known better. I mean, but his punt and kickoff skills are pretty good.
For a guy like that who's 28, he's been on multiple teams, been in the league for a while. Can you still see development and growth as he gets on the field more?
Absolutely, you can see that. We have, and that's why he's got an opportunity. Plus that and the injuries, but we used him the other day. He did some good things again, and he adds an element that helps with Terry. A guy that's dynamic with the ball in his hands. You just can't focus all your energies on one guy right now, and that's what he's helping us with.
When you talked before the year about building up the team around the quarterback position, is it just rookies, or is it also some of those other young guys, some of maybe even DeAndre? Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, that's what Again, the thought is making sure we can protect the quarterback. And when you add a Sam Cosme to that group, now you're working with a young guy. You bring in a new veteran guy. There's a little bit of development there that goes on. But for the most part, it is really about the young guys. And you look at those guys that we have in terms of playmakers, and you get excited about them because they're young guys that are learning and growing. And again, DeAndre, Dax. I mean, these are young guys that are showing something. Ricky Seals-Jones, who's not necessarily a young guy, but he's new to us, and John Bates. I mean, these guys are all guys that can add something to it. And let's don't forget Antonio Gibson and Jared Patterson as young guys as well.
And I know injuries and game planning might have had hiccups, the last couple of weeks, but where do you feel like in terms of that growth you guys are at right now?
I think we're growing, and that's what you want. You want this to be an opportunity for us to develop and grow, and at the same time continue to work to win. I mean, we want to win football games, and we have some growing to do, but that should not get in the way of us winning football games if we play to our abilities. I really believe if we play to our abilities, we give ourselves a chance to win.
Ron, last year you guys did have rookies that were high impact pretty much right away. Chase Young, Antonio Gibson, Cam Curl. To not necessarily have that this year, and I understand rookies are young, how does that kind of affect?
Well, I think Sam Cosme has had a pretty good impact. I do. I think Benjamin St. Juste has done some good things, but he's still learning and growing. Jamin's still learning and growing. There's a learning curve for them. John Bates is starting to get more opportunities because of the injury, obviously. And you wish, that they could get a little bit more time. But it's still early. I mean, we've only played a little more than a quarter of the season. So I'm still optimistic because I still think we have guys that if we can play to our abilities, we create opportunities to win.
We've talked about the hesitation with Jamin and stuff. I'm wondering for St. Juste, what is the learning curve for a cornerback? What sort of things are you seeing him work out and kind of have to improve on?
With him, it's not the X's and O's as much as it's learning the nuances of the position, getting to understand how receivers play against you, because again, understanding that, if I'm in a certain technique, I'm going to get this sort of response from this type of wide receiver. So there are some nuances that they have to learn and develop. And with Benjamin, I think that's a little bit of an understanding. And a great example is what happened to him in the Chargers game when they threw a couple of those back shoulders to him. Is understanding and learning to anticipate the back shoulder coming will help him as he develops and grows as a football player.
Talked to you a lot about your relationship with Andy Reid, and since you're playing him again, what has he meant to your career?
Well, I think the biggest thing, most of anything else, he gave me my first opportunity as a positional coach, and then he helped train me, put me on the road to where I am today. A lot of it is is basically understanding his way of doing things. It's embedded in the West Coast way of doing things. And so because of that, I learned a lot of the things that I do today. I try to mimic him to a degree. And that's why he means so much to a lot of us.
Well, this is kind of a two-part, but what are some of those things that you have taken from him to implement? And then when you're going through it, like last year, there was a lot of stuff going on, and this year, not the start you want, how much do you still talk to him and use him as a mentor?
Well, I mean, since we played so early, I really haven't talked to Coach. I did reach out when he had his little episode health-wise a couple of weeks ago. But, and once we get past this, I'll probably reach out to him at some point. But he's been a guy that, we as a lot of coaches that worked for him are able to reach out to him and ask him questions and ask his advice. And he's been great about that. He really has.
What are some of the things that you have implemented that you took from him that you use that you truly believe in part because of what you learned from him?
Well, a big part of it is practice structure. The way he wants practice operated, the tempo at which he wants it played, and the reason is because, you don't condition players like you used to back in the day. So you try to get the conditioning during the reps. It's always about tempo and practicing fast and going and doing everything quickly. That's what gets the heart rate going. That's what gets, it's close a mimic to game speed, which is really hard. But still just getting everybody to understand the way we want to practice and the tempo at which we want to practice.
Hey, Ron, with regards to the training staff, obviously you guys are going through some things. How did it go this week on Sunday with having new people around? And is there any update to anything with staffing beyond what you said with Bubba Tire and bringing back some interns?
Yeah, there's nothing I can tell you what's going on, with the situation, circumstances that's been different, because quite honestly, we're in the dark as far as that's concerned. But I thought the staff handled it very well. Mark McCracken has pretty much stepped up as the head down there for right now. He's done a very nice job keeping me informed and working with the players. Jeff Ruiz is handling all the rehab stuff for us, and that's his background as one of our assistant trainers as well. And then the doctors have been very good with our guys. We reached out and brought a couple of our interns back, and they're helping us, which has been tremendous, having to deal with that. And not letting it become a distraction for the players.
And with regards to the defensive line, we obviously ask a lot of questions about the starters and Chase and so on. They were rotating in a lot of other guys, and Chase's snap totals have gone down the last couple of weeks, which means more of, say, like a James Smith-Williams. What are you getting out of the reserves? I don't mean Matt Ioannidis, but some of the other deeper guys, like a Smith-Williams. Are you seeing enough progress from them so far?
We are. We're seeing some growth on that and seeing some effect, in terms of making plays or being around plays. And that's what you need to get from those young guys is you need them to affect plays some way, somehow, and hopefully make a few more. And that's what you need to get from those young guys, those reserves, when they're part of a rotation.
Sticking with the D-line, I know rush discipline was a big topic in early games. How have you seen maybe that improve in the past couple weeks?
I thought the last couple of weeks has been a good sign. You're starting to see those things. Obviously, the numbers are much better, and we got to continue to work that way. The thing that I'd like to see is us to play with more discipline, and not just with the rushers, but the linebackers as well, because that all works together as far as those things are concerned. But I was very pleased with what we've seen the last 2 weeks from those guys up front.
When you brought up kind of the idea of when with the defense, you don't necessarily want to mix and match too much because then you never get a real feel of how a certain group is performing. How do you know when it's time to get away from that patient approach and maybe make some changes?
Well, I think the thing that we've got to look at is what is limiting our success more than anything else, or what would be a better move to give us an opportunity to be successful. And those are some of the things that we have to look at. And quite honestly, we'll continue to do that. We'll talk about, hey, what if we had this combination guys on the field, put this guy at this spot? Does that help us? I mean, those are things that we do look at and we do discuss.
And then real quick, picking up Corn Elder from Carolina, just what was behind that move and what kind of player does he bring to the secondary?
Corn's a very smart football player. It's fortunate enough we had him in Carolina. He knows and knows a lot of things that we do, plays a lot of those similar techniques. So his transition into being a player for us should be easy. We lost Darryl Roberts for a little bit, and so he was a guy that we know and we know he's very capable, very smart football player, very headsy. He can play inside and out, and that gives us a little flexibility with him as well.
But they've been a little up and down. Is there anything that you're seeing that makes you go, like defenses are adjusting to them, or is it just them not executing the way they normally do?
I think a little bit, you got to give credit to the defenses and what they're trying to do. I mean, I think as you watch film and break it down, you see some of these things that you can take advantage of, some of these things that you can use. And I think that's one of the things that happens, eventually it does catch up. I do know that they're still explosive. I mean, they're top 5 in almost every offensive category. And explosives, you've got to be very careful. I mean, they are a team that lives and dies with the dynamic play downfield, and we've got to stay on top of it and keep that in front of us.
No, this might be more interesting than important, and I'll
Okay.
put that category in there. But you guys are last in the league in attendance, and I'm wondering, you talked about the fans showing. Are you surprised at all that the momentum of last season didn't carry over from an attendance perspective?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'd love to get the fans back. I really would. But again, we also got to make sure we're playing well and we're putting a good product on the field. We got to hold up our bargain to get them to come back. I get that. It's interesting because this is a very dynamic area, and you've got to be able to capture their attention, the fans' attention. So, like I said, probably me the biggest thing is we got to win, and that's that's on me, that's on us, to get them back and get them behind us.